Yeah, so my name is Leah. I'm one of your Dan Patch Youth Leadership finalists this year, and I had the privilege of listening to Leanne Skurupey speak as a keynote for Winter Roundup this past January. She was so inspiring that I actually went up afterwards and asked her to give me an autograph on my folder. Um, Dr. Skurupey has a PhD in animal science, and she is also a domestic and international horse show judge and a carded judge for multiple organizations, including the American Paint Horse Association. She has also coached world champion intercollegiate horse show teams. She currently oversees the 4-H livestock and equine programs for North Dakota Extension and as a state 4-H youth development specialist for animal science. So thank you for joining us, Dr. Skurupey. We're really excited to learn from you.
Boy, Leah, I don't think I could have anybody introduce me more beautifully. Thank you so much. Okay, well, I am going to turn, I don't know if you guys have video. I don't mind turning my video on, so I will.
So did you want us to read the questions if they come through, or?
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Okay, so I'll monitor the chat to see if there's any questions, and then we can go from there.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much for doing that. Well, I don't even have to introduce myself then, it sounds like, because Leah did such a fantastic job. Basically said everything that's on the screen. So thank you so much, Leah. And it's been so much fun with my journey as a horse judge. And so I'm really excited to share that with you guys today. And again, don't be afraid to stop me and ask me questions. This is a fun opportunity. This is not strictly any way that needs to be done. So we're going to have fun tonight. So I'm going to start off with my first question. So find that chat box again and let me know if somebody were to ask you today, what is a horse show judge? In a sentence or maybe even a word, what would you say? How would you describe a horse show judge? Just curious what you guys have as a perspective of a horse show judge. Curious what you guys think of when somebody says horse show judge. I'm sure some of you on here are on a horse judging team, so you might have an understanding of what a horse show judge does.
So everybody, you should be able to put it in the chat or unmute yourself, and then you can answer her question if you like.
Ooh, that's good, Leah. A knowledgeable person who judges horses, conformation, and performance. Really good. Try to give you feedback to make you better. Yes, that is so wonderful. I'm so glad somebody said that. So that means that our judges out there are doing that. I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. Someone who knows lots and lots about horses. Yes, Annie, that is so good. Hopefully they know lots and lots about horses. Yes. Who has the knowledge to judge a horse and rider. Thank you so much. Officiates horse shows. Yes. Ah, you guys are full of such wisdom. Okay. Thank you so much for giving me some things to go by and see where you guys are at. So obviously you guys know that a horse show judge is way more than just placing classes and handing out ribbons. And, you know, maybe there's a Danish system that is used in some states, especially when it comes to 4-H, and it's so much more than that. So what does that mean? Well, you guys already touched on some of this. First, a certified horse show judge, they have to evaluate something on a standard. And so they have an ideal in mind, usually set forth by a rule book. So hopefully a lot of you that show horses, and if you can in the chat box, let me know, just say me. If you guys actually show horses, just say me in the chat box for me, just to get an idea of how many on this call actually show horses. Oh, wonderful. So we have some horse showers on here. Fantastic. I love talking to exhibitors because if you can kind of understand what a judge does, you have a very much better, just a better perspective, basically, of the judge's perspective. So qualified and consistent judge is a benefit to a show's success. If you get a judge in there that really doesn't know what they're doing, obviously it can make the me factor, those of you that just put in there that you show horses, it can make us all a little bit upset. So we want to make sure that our judges are certified and know what they're doing. So some of you mentioned experience as one of those factors, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Provide growth and education to the exhibitors. One of you touched on that exactly. When they come to a horse show and you have the opportunity to get some tips and suggestions on how you can improve, that is so fun. It's what a way to learn and bring it back home and experience and put that tips and tricks to work at home. So the next time you come back to a show, you can be better. And one of my favorites is a judge continues to contribute to the horse industry, continues to improve it, because as a judge, you often are the ones that set the standard. And so, you know, as a judge, if you're picking a horse that has, let's take Western Pleasure, because we're going to talk a little bit about that today. If you pick a horse that has a really low headset constantly, then people that are outside the arena, they're going to watch what you're selecting in first place. And so they're going to try to imitate what you select as a judge. And if all the judges start selecting horses with really low headsets, that's what everybody's going to train for. So you have such an impact on the industry as a judge, and that can be very valuable and kind of scary sometimes. So when I think about what it takes to be a judge, I kind of thought through the most important things. And so the first thing I wanted to talk about is integrity, but hold up. What on earth even is integrity? Can you guys mention in there, or feel free to unmute? What does integrity mean to you? Not just as an exhibitor, but as just a human being. Give me an idea of what integrity means to you. Because it can kind of mean a lot of things. Truthfulness, yes. Honesty, fairness, yeah. Unbiased, perfect. Humble. Man, you guys are so good. This is perfect. I don't know that I could have answered it any better than what you guys are already putting in the chat box. And thank you guys for being brave enough to put stuff in the chat box. You guys nailed it. You know, the number one requirement as a judge is they have to have integrity, because judging is a privilege. It's something that you earn. And so you have to place all classes, exhibitors, horses according to the rule book and policies of the rule book. And every breed might be a little bit different. Tori, yes, understanding and honest, really good. So good character is key, you know, honesty, you already mentioned that, sincerity, completeness, fairness, you guys mentioned that, professionalism. So we want to make sure that as a judge, that one of the biggest things that we need to make sure is definitely integrity. So let's say that Leah came into my show pen, and I know Leah and I know her horse. And so if she came in there and because I know her and her horse was kind of acting up and maybe threw some bucks in the pen, but because I know her, I still put her first. That's not having integrity. That's not having good character. Because just because I know Leah doesn't mean she gets to place first on my card. That means that she has to earn that place on my card. And so as a judge, you have to really make sure that you continue to stay that fair and honest. So then we think about a trained eye. A lot of you guys mentioned experience. So, you know, critical eye of a professional horse show judge can be highly intimidating to exhibitors. However, the world can look very different from the inside of a ring. So understanding the mind of a judge, the responsibilities, the thought process and goals might change an exhibitor's perspective as the actual exhibitor. So when I think about experience, because as I'm talking to you guys as hopefully one day you guys are aspiring judges, or maybe you'll at least think about it, because it might seem scary at first, because I know I thought it was scary at first, but it's really not as bad, and it's incredibly rewarding, and I'll tell you why a little bit later. So when we think about experience, I have been riding horses my entire life. You know, I started training miniature horses when I was little to ride and drive. And then I got a little bit older and I started to train large ponies to jump. And that's how I got my money for college. And then I went on to horse training school right out of high school. I trained then under a few trainers for an assistantship and some other deals. And then I competed in the show pen. So, you know, you find your passion that drives you and you let that reason hold the reins. I love that statement, because I would have never thought that I would be a horse judge. That is certainly, I at first was not confident, didn't think that I had the skills to be a horse show judge, didn't think that I had the experience. And so don't let those things get to you, because they're false. And I'm going to kind of explain a little bit more why. So how do you get experience to become a judge? There's lots of different ways. The first thing is super simple at your guys' ages is volunteer at a horse show. I'm sure some of you, since a lot of you are actual riders, you've already been to a horse show. You know a lot of the components at a horse show. You've probably had a gate announcer call your name, and it isn't just like, hey, number 100, 100, where are you? It's like, 100, get over here. We need you. You're up on deck. And so, you know, knowing all the components of a horse show is so valuable. Then you have a little bit more respect for all of those people that make a show come together, including a judge. So volunteering at a show is a fantastic way to gain experience. But more commonly, we see an inspiring judge going towards like a ring steward or a scribe. So pictured here, I actually have one of my students scribing for me on the top. She was on my horse judging team, and you know, she is now judging shows, open and 4-H shows all the time. And so that's a perfect way to gain experience, because you get to sit right next to a judge and hear them talk. Maybe when you're not focusing on calculating numbers, you can have small conversations of, what are you looking for? What did you see there? You know, and stuff like that. It's a perfect way to make a connection as well. And then, you know, the bottom one is I scribed a lot, and I worked my way up to being a scribe at the Youth World Show for APHA. And that was a really neat experience. It helped me to further get knowledge and how do I conduct myself as a judge, get poise and tact, and kind of identify what is professionalism as a judge. So they became my mentors and leaders and inspirers. It's been a lot of fun. You can also go to seminars and clinics. There is no age on that. You guys can totally attend any sort of seminar, whether it's an AQHA seminar, a state seminar. Minnesota has their judges certification that you guys can attend. The Color Breed Council is often held in Oklahoma. If you're up for traveling, it's an awesome week-long deal where judging teams actually get a discount to go to. It goes through all these different disciplines. It's a lot of fun. You can apprentice judge. Usually you have to be a little bit older, most likely 18, because you have to talk to show management and let them kind of shadow the judge. Obviously competing, you guys are already on top of that, getting some experience as an exhibitor, because how that relates is, let's say you're showing Western Pleasure. When you show it, you get to identify with what it encompasses. So you start to learn, and hopefully as an exhibitor, you're reading that rule book and you already know what the judge is expecting of you. So it's pretty cool. You can attend and watch horse shows. I would highly encourage you guys. Oftentimes they live stream the world shows for free. Perfect opportunity to get on. You can look at the schedule and get on there and be like, oh, you know, ranch riding is today. That's my favorite class. I'm going to get on and watch ranch riding. And then you can kind of see and compare to the judges' results what they're looking for the top placing horses, and start to get an eye trained for really well-moving horses and correct horses. And we'll talk a little bit about that later as well. You obviously can compete on a horse judging team. How many of you in the chat box put how I just put the letter I that are actually on a horse judging team currently? Leah, all right, nice. Shelby, very cool. Madeline, all right. So we have some fellow horse judges on here. So that's how I even became a judge. I didn't get actually a start with you guys, like you guys are doing in FFA or 4-H. I didn't start my judging career until I got to college. So that was a ways off. You guys are way ahead of step of where I was getting involved at such a young age. So it was not easy for me. Knowledge Quiz Bowl is very good. Excellent. I'm glad you're involved in that. I have dyslexia, so judging was very tough for me because numbers aren't good, and I'm not very organized with notes. Spelling's hard, memorizing is hard, so recalling classes from the beginning of the day and trying to do a set of reasons at the end of the day, oh my, was that a difficult challenge. However, I was determined to succeed, and I strived every day to practice and practice and practice. I talked reasons on my bike, in the shower, walking to class, before bedtime, in the morning. You name it, I was practicing. And as a result, I came out top 10 in my very first contest, which was the American Paint Horse Spring Sweepstakes. And that kind of like sparked me. I was like, oh, maybe I can do this judging thing. And so it was a lot of fun. And I just continued to do well in every contest. And so as a judge, I was like, okay, getting my foot wet in this judging career, kind of fun, exciting. And so from doing well in each of the contests and being reserve champion team at every contest that we competed in, it was pretty exciting. Because of that, I ended up getting recruited to the University of Florida to coach their horse judging team. Never in my life would I imagine that my judging career would start off and continue to move forward after my bachelor degree. And so I got recruited there, and in exchange for coaching, they gave me a full assistantship, not only for my master's, but when I finished my master's, they asked me to stay on for my doctoral program. So I stayed there for 6 years coaching the horse judging team. And so just know, those of you that said I and are currently on a horse judging team, you can still further, your horse judging career while you're in college. There's lots of colleges out there that certainly have a horse judging team, and you never know where it'll place you. Not just the University of Florida has this type of assistant program for you guys as a coach. Texas Tech has it. Arkansas has one. So there's a couple other colleges that have the opportunity for you to serve as a coach and then get an assistantship or get some money towards your college, which is pretty exciting. So I would highly recommend, looking at that as a judge. And, that brought more success. It was something that I was not planning for as a judge. I had never coached a team in my life. So that was interesting, kind of jumping in, because I came from Colorado State University, where we eat, sleep, breathe judging. We gave reasons all the time. And so when I got there, I was basically being a drill sergeant. And apparently people don't always like drill sergeants. And so I learned really quick as a coach in horse judging that, instead of moving from the mentality that I have to win everything, and moving to the mentality and focusing more on the beautiful life skills that I am teaching my students, such as public speaking skills, communication, organization, confidence, poise, and how to be fearless. That actually, once I realized that and learned, everything just started falling into place, and we started winning. And so it's kind of neat because I've come home with a national championship team, an AQHA World Reserve Championship title. So I have success on here, and I'm just curious, why do you guys suppose that the U is a different color? What do you think I'm intending to imply with that? And feel free to unmute your mic or type in the chat. What do you think the importance of that U being highlighted in gold would be when it comes to success? Because you have to put the work in to win. Absolutely. Yes, you have to put the work in to get there. Heck yeah, you guys are brilliant. You guys are spot on. So to have success, I have the U because you are the only one that controls your success. If you don't put the time and the effort in, you're not going to have the success that you ultimately desire. So your passion will drive that positive attitude and your desire to work hard and then get to that achievement and dictate your success. So just remember that no matter what you guys are doing in life, whether it be horse judging, which is awesome, make sure that you know that you're the only one you can control. So focus on that. And what's even cooler is, so Linsey was actually a student of mine on the 2014 Reserve World Championship team. She went on from my team, got a job at Lake Butler. It's a high school there, and coaches the FFA horse judging team. And so from her experience, she also did 4-H and FFA as a youth, then came to the bachelor program at the University of Florida, was on the horse judge collegiate team, and then went on to coach her own team and had a lot of success. And so I'm hoping she'll eventually one day apply for her breed cards, but we'll see what happens. So it's kind of neat how it starts to continue to go full circle, and where that judging will lead you. So back to what does it take to be a horse show judge? So we got integrity, we know we need experience, we know we need focus. It's a long day. Oftentimes, if you were to ask me, okay, what does a normal day in a horse show judge's life look like? The show bill, which has all of the class listed on it, if it starts at 7:30 in the morning, you have to be there 30 minutes early. And so you'll be there at 7. Oftentimes, depending on the classes, you could have up to 223 classes on a show bill with minimal breaks. And so you could go until 8 p.m. for 7 p.m. for a 12-hour day. It just depends on the horse numbers. So you have to have focus, because however you judge the horse at 7:30 a.m. in the morning, you have to have the same exact focus and fairness, because going back to integrity, at 7 p.m. that afternoon. And so it can be hard sometimes, and a challenge, but something that you have to strive for. A strong attention to detail. You've got a lot going on. You've got a class coming in, and you've got 20 hunter under saddle riders who are all wearing the exact same colored shirt and blazer and beige pants and tall boots. And you've got them going around at a trot and trying to get all their numbers organized. You have to be focused and have attention to detail. And so it's a lot of fun, but it can certainly be intimidating at times. So with that, you have to have really good note-taking skills, because you don't want to mix up your numbers. And for me, with my dyslexia, I have to work extra hard, because I will transpose numbers left and right if I'm not careful. And so making sure that your note-taking skills are good. So for example, if a horse going around the first direction in Western Pleasure bucks and does something silly in the corner, you have to make sure that you don't place him first in your class. It probably doesn't deserve that. And so making sure you note that on your card is pretty imperative. Superior communication. We kind of talked a little bit about that. And those of you that are on a horse judging team already, man, you guys are already earning skills that you have no idea how big it will shine in your life later on. That communication skills, just like what you guys mentioned earlier in terms of getting feedback at an open show, a judge will kind of give you some sort of tips and tricks to go home with and work on. Being able to help the youth grow, or the industry grow, I guess you're not as a judge only talking to youth, is so important. It gives them an opportunity for improvement. And so that's always definitely good. And then if you go to a different association, like the World Conformation Horse Association, so for halter horses, they actually have to give reasons on the mic in front of the crowd. And so it's something that is required of that judge. And so communication certainly would be imperative in that aspect as well. Meet the demands and expectations of the association. That comes with knowing the rule book inside and out. As a judge, it's sometimes difficult if you hold multiple cards, because not every breed association has the exact same rules. And so if you're judging an Appaloosa show one day and a quarter horse show the next day, they have very different things in some of the classes. And so knowing and being able to recall that, have the focus and attention to detail when that comes up, is very important. All right, fun question here. Do you have to wear a cowboy hat as a judge? What do you guys think? Just put a simple yes or no in that chat box. Okay, we got a yes. Yes, all right, yes. Lots of yeses. Okay, got it. All right, so drum roll. It depends. So I'm sure most of you might have some sort of stock horse type or in the Pinto world, and you often see a cowboy hat. But it really all depends on the rule book. So for example, United States Equestrian Federation or FEI, and you're a hunter judge only, or you only go and judge the Grand Prix, you might not ever see a cowboy hat on their on someone. You might see even maybe a derby hat. Some men wear derby hats. So if we are talking about cowboy hats, what are the two kinds of cowboy hats? Do you guys know? Usually two kinds anyways. Put that in the chat box if you guys know the difference, or maybe what I'm getting at. Two different types of cowboy hats. Yeah, nailed it. Okay, so we got straw and we have felt. And so straw hats are often used from Memorial Day to Labor Day. They're a lighter weight and they allow a little bit more circulation into your head because some of those days get really hot. Like when I go judge a show down in Fallon, Nevada, and it's 105 degrees, you're sweating. So you want as much circulation when the wind isn't even blowing as possible. And then a felt hat is going to be warmer. So you often wear that from Labor Day to Memorial Day, just for a little bit of warmth. There's no strict rule on that, just FYI. That's just kind of an unwritten rule. So what kind of judges out there? So there are so many kinds of judges. It's so crazy. If you wanted to be a judge as your only career and obtain multiple judges cards, it would be definitely doable. So the first thing is an open and 4-H horse show judge. That's where you would start to gain experience, is just judging open and 4-H shows, get shows under your belt. Because oftentimes, and we'll talk a little bit about it later, you're going to need show management references. So they need to be like, oh yeah, Leah did a really good job judging our show. She was professional. She was very knowledgeable and whatnot. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. Breed associations. Every breed association has a card. You can't just get one card and it automatically apply to all breeds. So if you want to get your paint horse card, you have to go test with the paint horse. If you want to get your American Buckskin Registry Association card, you have to go get that card. If you want your Palomino card, your mule card, your miniature card, you have to go apply with each individual association. What's kind of neat, so let's take AQHA for example. You can apply and get your all-around card, so you can go judge anything at any show. Or maybe you just really like English. That's your gig. You've been writing English your whole life. You love the working hunters. Maybe you want to be a specialty judge. So instead of going and applying for an all-around card, you're only going to apply for over fences. So that's certainly possible as well. You don't have to go for an all-around card. And then there's also discipline cards. So for example, mounted shooting. And there, it's not really called a judge, they call him a range master, but same kind of thing. You would go and get qualified and most likely take some sort of rule book exam. We'll talk a little bit about that later. National Cutting Horse Association, reining, Western dressage. You would go actually get certified in that specialty. The National Snaffle Bit Association certainly is an option. A super prestigious USEF. There, you kind of work your way up in their judging program, starting as a little R, moving to a big R, and then senior R, or senior S, not senior R, and that kind of gives you an idea there what those all mean. So if you're an S, you're a senior judge, and you can judge the really cool Grand Prix. And then if you're really the top of the line, you might be FEI certified. And so those are the ones that actually govern the Olympic Games. And how cool would that be? Just a little fun note, the Olympic Games for horses started in 1900. So it's been around for quite a while, but not all that long. Pretty awesome to kind of see it moving forward. I love watching the vaulting, so cool. So how do you become a judge? Let's talk a little bit about that, okay? So it varies. We kind of talked a little bit about that. Every breed is a little bit different. Some of them might require an apprenticeship if you don't have a lot of experience yet. All of them are going to apply. You're going to need some sort of application. And then once you maybe get invited to come judge, you might do some video judging, some live judging. Most likely you're definitely going to have a rule book exam of some sort. It might be open book. It might be closed book. It's all different. And some of them come with an interview. And so some of the criteria, and some of you are probably a little far off right here, maybe getting closer. They do have age requirements. So just an example on here, I have the American Paint Horse Association as 21 and the American Quarter Horse Association as 25. So they vary. So you'd have to look at which breed association or which association you wanted to get carded with and go look at what their criteria is. Some of them require that you actually have to be a member in good standing for an entire year before you can even apply as a judge. So again, the criteria is a little bit different. Going to have an application fee. It might not be $100. It might be something cheaper. I just put that in there because most often the breed associations are around that. You're going to need horse experience. And when you fill out that application, they're going to look for recommendations. So they want recommendations from individuals that are already approved judges. So if you were applying for your American Paint Horse card, then, and I've seen you judge, or I've witnessed how you judge, you could use me as a reference because I'm already a carded judge. So you would need references from already approved judge in that discipline or area that you're already applying for. Character references, we need to know that you have integrity. So somebody that's going to definitely talk highly of you in a positive manner. And then show management references. That's why I was saying earlier where you should start is at the open horse show level, because then you can keep those show management contacts definitely in play, because you will want to call back on the show management and be like, hey, would you serve as a reference for as I apply for this breed card? And hopefully you did a really good job. And if you're interested and you're already up starting to do open shows, I definitely have a form that I can provide you that you actually give the show manager and they fill out, and you can kind of keep it. So you not only have their contact information, but you get feedback on how you did as a judge that day and what you can improve on. So if you're interested in that, let me know. And then some, like AQHA, there's like a secret person in your state that has to give approval for you to even apply. So again, every association is different. You often have to be invited to come test. So for example, I just applied for my NSBA card, and even though you applied doesn't mean you're going to get asked to come judge. It's been postponed with COVID, but hopefully I get invited to come judge. Oftentimes you'll get an open rulebook exam, like APHA, they sent out an open rulebook exam. Then you get a closed one when you get there. Do a lot of video judging. It might be penalty clip. You might be looking at movement, maybe a lameness evaluation, so something to be working on. You'll have a full day of live judging, and then you have to go into an interview. So those of you that are on the horse judging team, this is where that life skill really comes into play, because you've already been giving reasons. So you have a really good opportunity and confidence already set forth on talking in front of people. So that's really good. And then something like the Category 1 card for NSBA. So you can apply for your NSBA card, but if you apply for your Category 1 NSBA card, you can judge shows that offer $10,000 more in added money, so like the World Show. But you're going to have to do a little bit more when you get invited to judge. So they have an extra video of judging, and it costs more money to apply for that as well, on top of the other one. So then I always get asked, well, can I make a career out of horse judging? The answer is definitely yes. A career in professional horse judging is both prestigious and rewarding, but you kind of make it what you want. So if you love to travel, this is awesome. This is the perfect job for you. But you also schedule, because people, how you get invited is somebody will call you, show management will call you and ask you if you want to judge. And if your calendar's free, you're like, hey, yeah, I'll do it that day. And then you put it on your calendar. So you can fill up your month as many horse shows as you want or as little horse shows as you want. You get to control it. So super flexible. You can do it part-time or full-time. And these numbers, you know, take it with a grain of salt. It changes from year to year depending on how much money a club or a chartered association might have. So I've ranged at an open show, 4-H show. I've been ranging from $50 to $500 a day. Just really depends. Maybe you only go to that show to judge trail, which is certainly possible, and you don't judge the rest of the show. You can get money for that. As a carded judge, your money earned is going to go up. You know, again, it depends on the show. It depends on the breed association. Some shows have a lot of money. Some even pay overtime. So if you're there extra. You can also be a ring steward. So don't think that as you're gaining experience to become a judge, you can also get paid to ring steward. So definitely be thinking of that. But also as the AQHA steward, that's a little bit different. Oftentimes an AQHA steward already has a judge's card, and they're the ones that kind of patrol big AQHA shows. You know, are horses being treated humane? Are there any rule questions, any tack questions, any illegal tack? They help with course setup. They monitor complaints and evaluate unsafe position or like different situations. So let's say the ground is really bad and they're having to do something, they'll help identify that situation. So just some things to think about as you guys are moving forward. All right, so let's talk about why we should judge, or why on earth would you want to be a judge? Of course, I'm here talking about horse judging because I'm so passionate about it and I love it, but how can I convince you guys if you're not already thinking about it? So it's obviously rewarding. It's something that you can help literally change the industry. We talked a little bit earlier about Western pleasure and just the differences that have been made in a decade about headset, you know. And so, you know, it's, you know, at one point we called some of those Western pleasure horses peanut rollers because their heads were so low. And now today, if you read the rule book of, let's say, AQHA, again, every rule book might have different rules. So it's always imperative to make sure you're reading that rule book and understanding it completely, that, you know, their ears can't be consistently below the withers for a long number of time, or else they'll end up getting disqualified. And so even in these pictures, you can kind of see the variation of headset and expression and top line on all of them, you know, from the black and white one being older and then getting newer with the horse and the Boselle, and then the horse with the orange blanket, the sore with the 2 white socks, that's right out of this year. And so just kind of seeing some of the different self-carriage seen in the Western pleasure horse. And so as a judge, it's so much fun because you get to see some really cool horses. And it's a lot of, it's inspiring to watch some of these athletic horses come through. So if we think about Western pleasure and as a judge, how you can make a difference, you first have to know what the class is talking about. So I'm going off the AQHA rulebook here currently, but the first thing as a judge, you have to know the gaits, because if you don't know what you're judging, then you can't evaluate it correctly. And so there's a place in the AQHA rulebook that actually goes through every single gait. So if you show horses and you're on this call, which some of you are, and you show AQHA or you have a stock type horse, then this would be where you could go to identify, you know, I'm not doing well in the show pen. Why am I not doing well? Well, maybe your jog isn't cadence, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. And it kind of goes through. So like, for example, it says an extremely poor jog cannot perform a 2-beat gait and has no flow or balance in the motion. And so it's starting to walk you through what the judge needs to identify with for you as an exhibitor. Even the backup is on here. So it's very detailed and it's come a long way from years past, and it's kind of fun to watch it. So they also, if you go to the Western pleasure section, it tells you exactly what the judge wants to see as a Western pleasure horse. So I just highlighted some of the favorite parts of it. A free-flowing stride of reasonable length. So not something that's in there going ding, 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 little tiny strides. Free-flowing, moving forward. A horse that has a balanced flowing motion while exhibiting correct gait. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. What is a correct gait? With the proper cadence. We're going to identify that here in a second too. Quality of movement is huge. This is not a class that's judged on an exhibitor. It's all judged on the horse. And so a horse that is relaxed with a natural position, with the poll level with or slightly above level with the withers. I love that they're putting in here that we're really starting to teach our judges. We're looking at the horse's ears. We want them to have a bright expression. We want to know that they're having fun. They want to look alert. They're going to get some bonus points if your horse is out there looking through the bridle. Reasonably loose rein is going to give you a higher degree of credit. Responsive yet smooth in transitions when called for. Oftentimes, our exhibitors forget that we're watching each transition. Your transition's up, your transition's down. And so if you are jogging really nicely and then you ask your horse to either transition up to the lope or transition down to the walk and he throws his head and you're wondering why, your horse is a gorgeous mover, but why am I not placing very high on the card? Maybe it's your transitions, maybe they're slappy. So making sure that those are something you're paying attention to as an exhibitor. When asked to extend, that's something I see often is nobody actually goes and does my extended jog when I ask them to. And so when I call for a gait, that means that every exhibitor should do the gaits that are called. And so extended jog, the movement should be same flowing motion, but extending out. Fluid, they've mentioned that fluid or flowing stride often in there. So it must mean that it's important. Balance, a horse that's willing to give appearance that's fit and pleasure to ride. So oftentimes I joke and I'm like, okay, so which horse do I want to bring home? Which one looks the smoothest to ride? So that's all from the AQHA rule book. But if we look at the APHA, so the Paint Horse Association, it gives 6 different characteristics, which is still kind of described in the AQHA rule book. So those 6 characteristics are cadence, rhythm, top line, expression, consistency, and length of stride. So can somebody tell me what is cadence? What does that mean to you? Because that's really important as an exhibitor to know. As a judge, definitely need to know. So what is cadence? Takes a minute for you guys to type it out. If you're anything like me and you're a finger typer. Carries himself nicely. That's definitely a part of it. Yep. Even, consistent pace and footfall. You nailed it with the footfall. Any others out there? These are all very good. Yep, form, okay, definitely plays a big part. Very good. So cadence is definitely the footfall pattern. So what is the gait of a jog? So definitely kind of talking about strides. So what is the footfall or the beat of a jog? Yep, exactly. 2 beats. Very well done. So when a horse is cadenced, they have to have a very exact 2-beat diagonal pair hitting the ground at the exact same time. And we're going to watch a couple here in a minute. And I'm going to let you guys see what you guys think. And so definitely the 2 beats. So if cadence is the footfall pattern, so a jog is 1 2 1 2, a lope is 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, a walk is 4 1 2 3 4. Nice forward, not a jiggy 1 2 3. No, we want a 1 2 3 4. Nice forward. You're going somewhere. You don't want the jiggy walk anymore. So if cadence is the footfall pattern, what is rhythm? We've got our beats. Now we need to identify what rhythm is. Yeah, the timing. Really good. That's a great way to put it. Any other thoughts on that? Or ways to describe rhythm? So you're really right on there. So rhythm is definitely the speed of the footfall at any given gait. And yes, it needs to be consistent. And so thank you for adding that. And so when we say, let's take the jog, for example, we've got our 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, but it shouldn't be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So that rhythm is the speed of those footfall at any given gait. And so those are very important. And I'll let you guys refer to the APHA rulebook and read a little bit more on each one of those. Really good content. I'd highly recommend that, especially you guys as judges for 4-H. All that terminology and the verbiage that are in these rule books are perfect for reasons, perfect things to say. So you can grab and identify with the terminology that's within those rule books. And then I really like how the APHA rulebook has the 3 top evaluation requirements. These are the 3 things that every horse must demonstrate, and they are in the order of hierarchy. So first, that horse has to be correct. He has to be correct in all gaits, so that means cadence and rhythm, and it has to be very distinct. So the gait has to be correct. Then the quality. What is the overall gracefulness, relaxed presentation, consistency, expression, ears, top line, softness of movement? Does that horse hit the ground really hard and then puff up a lot of dust because he's dragging his feet? Not exactly being light on the ground if that's the case. The length of stride is key, and the performance of the gait. And then the degree of difficulty is like the icing on the cake, but the element must only be considered if the requirement for correctness has been met. And so that's something to take into consideration. So a horse, just because oftentimes people associate, oh, the horse is moving really slow in Western pleasure, he's gonna win. Not always the case, because a horse can move really slow but not be correct. And we're gonna actually see a couple of those in this next video that we're gonna watch. So let's watch that video. And Amy, you might have to tell me, because I don't know that I checked the 2 boxes, how well this is showing up. So I'm going to play it, and you guys tell me if it's clear. If it's not, then I'll make sure I get those check boxes checked when sharing. So I'm going to mute it. Can you guys see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So when we look at this bay jogging along, again, supposed to be jogging, would you guys say that this horse is cadenced? Put a yes or no in there. I'm going to rewind it again. Watch him come in. So put a yes or no in the chat box for me. So cadence is the footfall pattern, a 1, 2, 1, 2, both diagonal pairs hitting the ground at the exact same time. So is this horse cadenced? Yes or no? Yeah, nice work. So this horse has a little bit difficulty keeping its consistency with its 2-beat football pattern, but it also lacks in rhythm. He comes in, and as soon as you enter that arena, the judge is watching you. And so he kind of gets a little short and then kind of gets more extended right through here. But you can see that that front foot is going to hit the ground before the hind foot. And so right now, this particular horse is not cadenced. So if we look at the very first component in the Paint Horse Association with correctness, this horse is not correct right now. Obviously, they've got a whole nother story to tell. He's got the whole ring to go. He's got the other direction. So you're not going to write that horse off right away. What about this horse? Is this horse more cadenced? Yes or no? And if you can just put a Y or an N in there if you need to get a type in there faster. So is this horse more cadenced than the first one? Yes, good job. Yep, that horse definitely was. So what about this Rony pony? Is he cadenced? Yes or no? Go back and watch him for a second. Watch the Rony pony and tell me yes or no if this one, is he cadenced? I would have to say absolutely not. Good. I call it a twog. He's kind of like walking and jogging. I think I reversed it too much there. So we'll watch Rony pony when he gets here. So he's walking with his hind end and kind of jogging a step every now and again. So of the horses that we have watched so far, definitely by far the least correct in the jog. I think you guys would agree with that. Let's see if we can get to a different gait here. So we're gonna watch some lope here. Let's watch this next guy here. So when we're looking at the lope, we're looking for a good drive. And so when I say drive, we're watching that left hind foot in this case, because that left hind foot is the driving hock. Well, the right foot is going to actually leave first. So we're going to drive hard off the right foot and then reach under the belly as far as we can. So when I say deep drive, that means that that leg is reaching far up underneath the belly versus a horse that might just set that foot down, that left foot down right under its flank. And then a horse that really rounds through his back and reaches through his shoulder to produce a really nice long stride. And so we're going to watch these guys again. So like this bay here has a little shorter stride than this one. This horse reaches a little bit further, a little bit more open strided, sits on his hock longer before reaching up and taking that step. Yeah, thank you, Farron, for joining us. So just some fun things to consider as we think about that. I'm more than happy to talk to you guys more about that if you want. We are getting close to 7 o'clock. So again, kind of going back to why judge, it's so fun because you get to be a part of the industry and you get to help better. It teaches you to be a better exhibitor because you can still show as a judge. It's going to vary from association to association. Some associations still let you be an amateur, like USEF used to. I don't know if it's still current that way. But like AQHA, unfortunately, you do lose your amateur status. So be careful about that. And you get to develop a reputation. So it's fun because you can coach a horse judging team, host clinics and seminars, be a 4-H horse program leader, and give lessons. So that's a lot of fun. If you were to ask me what I love most about being a judge, definitely watching a horse and rider work as a team and watch them grow. Oftentimes you get to see them at the beginning of the year and then you get to watch them grow towards the end of the year. And it's so fun to see that connection between them and all that they get to master with that connection with the horse. Obviously, you get to see incredibly talented horses. You get to connect with exhibitors, new judges, network with show management, and even the arena crew. I've met some really cool announcers. It's been a lot of fun. But I'd have to say travel is certainly one of the most enjoying parts of being a judge. So the picture at the very top was when I went to Europe to judge the European Paint Horse Championships. they had a day there that was like crazy awesome. My ring steward pictured there dressed up in this suit, and everybody dresses crazy. It's so fun. And then I also have been able to judge the Danish Paint Horse Championships over in Denmark. And so I got the opportunity to go over there. I got to teach a clinic over there. So that picture with the young lady and the horse, we were working on shankless showmanship. So can your horse respond to you without you pulling on its lead shank? And so, and then that other picture, the Denmark 2017, you get to experience cool things. They actually lined up an opportunity for me to go ride horses on the beach, the Icelandic horses. So it was really cool. There's always resources, obviously, that you as a judge can hone in on to develop as you progress in your judging career. Showing to Win for Western Pleasure is a huge asset if you don't have that particular DVD. It's a really, really good one, but there's tons of them out there. I'm sure your 4-H program leaders can help you with that. So with that, I would love for all of you guys to make your mark on the industry as an approved judge one day. And if you ever need help getting there, you ever have any questions, definitely don't hesitate to contact me. My email's on there. And then I also was going to post some different links in there. So in the chat box that you guys can save and click on, just as some practice opportunities. There's some videos in there. I love watching the judges' perspectives on YouTube. They usually will walk through a discipline, and the judge will identify what they really like about that run and why they place top of the card. As an exhibitor, I would definitely watch those. It gives you an idea of what's going on with the run and what you can do to improve potentially. And then Horse Extension always has some great resources. And the Be Awesome pep talk is just a fun pep talk for you guys.
Leanne?
Yeah.
Somebody earlier in the presentation asked, what do you like most about the paint horse?
Ooh, obviously that's a perfect question. Thank you for asking. I love the paint horse just because they're so pretty. I grew up with a paint horse and a lot of paint ponies. And I think I've just been drawn to them as a connection because I've always had them. The coat colors are fascinating to me. Genetics are fascinating. And so I love just watching the different coat colors and stuff. I think that's why. Do you have any tips for practicing and memorizing reasons? Yes, Leah. So because I am dyslexic, I really had to find a way that I could learn. And for me, because as a coach, we don't want to technically have you guys memorize your reasons, because what happens if you memorize them and you get into the reasons room and you have something memorized, you'll forget. If you forget anything you wanted to say, you'll forget the whole sentence and perhaps the rest of your set. And so being able to be very fluid comes with note taking. And so one thing that really helped me when I was being coached, my coach actually took away my notes. Because I was writing too much. And so he took away my notes, and I had to come up with a set of reasons with absolutely no notes. I had to recall the class. And at first I was like, I can't do it. There's no way I could. But you have to just trust in yourself and make good notes when the class is being run. And whether that's making sure that every horse has a color identified with it, maybe the exhibitor was wearing something so you can recall that. Having notes is imperative, making sure that you've got your grants and your faults organized for each horse, knowing that you might have to take super fast notes so you won't be able to write, this horse had a better heart girth and bigger hip and more muscling in the gasket. And you can't write that all out. You don't have enough time. So working with your notes that will help generate a good set of reasons. For me, like when I wanted to say all that, I would just say, I would just have an H with an arrow up for the hip, a big hip. And so I wouldn't write that out in my set of reasons, because I could say when I'm practicing for my set of reasons, 1 minute I might say, this halter mare had a really big hip, which was identified with greater carry down in his lower gaskin, lower third of its hip, and blended smoothly into a much larger gaskin when viewed from behind. And so I could say that minute, but then the next minute I practice, okay, I know I want to say bigger hip. How else can I say it? So try not to focus on necessarily memorizing, but coming up with ways to help you. For me, I actually, color is a huge thing. So like my first pair, I would write in pink. My second pair, I would write in green. My last pair, I'd write in blue. And for some reason, my mind identifies with color. So if I'm in a reasons room and I forget something, I can remember, okay, my middle pair was green. This is what I said. Because we all have baubles in our reasons. And so oftentimes your baubles aren't nearly as long as you think they are. They seem like they're an hour long, but they're not. But that's a really good question. And Lee, I'd be more than happy to talk with you more about that at any time. I love reasons. As much as I used to hate them, I love them now. And some of that is actually developing that attitude that you really enjoy them. Having the positive attitude will actually dictate your success as well, just as an FYI. And that's towards anything in life. The more you have a negative connotation with it, the less you're going to do well at it. What other questions do you guys have? Good question. I don't even know how long I was supposed to talk. I can talk for much longer if you guys have more questions or want to learn more.
We had you scheduled for an hour, but
Oh, perfect. Well, I guess we've kind of been talking for an hour already, huh?
if anybody else has any questions, they're more than welcome to ask them.
Of course, my pleasure. I love horse judging. Thank you for spending time with me. Absolutely, Leah. Thanks for thinking of me and having such a great introduction for me. What are the 3 most important things to look for in quarter horse halter class? I love that question. There's actually 4, so I'm glad you asked that, Madeline. And this is in order of importance. So the first thing is balance. That horse has to be balanced. And so that is a multitude of things. When you look at a halter horse, you don't want them to be unlevel from wither to croup. You want their neck ratio, their back ratio to be well, their leg ratio, their knee to hock ratio. You never want to set up hocks that are higher than their knees when you're viewing them from a side profile, stuff like that. So balance is number 1. Second is structural correctness. So when you think of a horse formed to function, you need to have good legs, good hooves. And so nice straight legs from profile view, from the side, from the front view, and from the hind view. And so making sure that you're identifying with all those views to make sure the horse isn't cow-hocked, doesn't toe in, toe out, any sort of splints or anything on the side. Breed and sex characteristics, if it's a stallion or a mare, is your third component, because we want horses that look like females, or we want horses that look like males. And the last thing is actually muscling. Muscling used to be higher, but we're trying to get away from the giant ogre Arnold Schwarzenegger halter horses. And so we want to be able to use our halter horses for a lot of different disciplines, which they are doing nowadays. A lot of them go into roping or ranch classes. And so that's the order of importance. So it's balance, structural correctness, breed and sex characteristics, and muscling. So thank you for asking that. How do you stay organized with your notes? I love that question. That's a hard one because everybody's different. And so it can be challenging. And so for halter, obviously for me, I set up boxes on my sheet for each horse, horse 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I also draw a line down the sheet of my paper because I want to know what that horse looked like from the front, what that horse looked like from the back, and what it looked like when it was traveling. And so that way I know that I have some sort of note for every component of that class, and making sure, okay, for horse 1, did he have any blemishes or structural correctness issues from the side, the front, whatnot. And so that's how I kind of keep that organized. And I make sure, always to have positive things. And then I also try to identify, okay, what is one thing maybe I would prefer to have different? And when this is also another reasons concept, when you go in and do your reasons, don't just beat a horse with a stick and come in there and be like, this horse, he was toed out, he didn't have any muscling in his hips, he was cowhocked from behind. That as a reasons taker, that just sounds so negative. If that was my horse that you were telling me about, I would be so offended, even if I knew that those were wrong. So when you're thinking of negative things to say, which we always try to strive for positive, say it in a positive way. So I would prefer this horse to stand a little bit straighter when viewed from behind, as he was cowhocked. I would prefer this horse, or I would really like this horse to have a little bit more muscling through his forearm and shoulder to be more balanced with his hip. So really try to work on saying things, and that way you know what kind of notes you need to take. I don't know if that helps. And same with like movement ones. Make sure half of your page for notes is the first direction and half of your page is the second direction. And then always add a little box for the back, because the back is still important. A back's not going to place the class, but a back can certainly move a horse up and down if he throws his head in the air and is super unwilling. So definitely think about that. I don't know if I answered your question. Do you have any games you used with the team during coaching? I have lots of games. So one of my fun games, Leah, was popcorn reasons. So everybody in the team would say a different portion of the mock set. So it's not that you've actually ever watched a class. It's that you're going to make up an entire set. So maybe one person would start out with the introduction. Ma'am, I saw this halter class as 1, 2, 3, 4 with an obvious top who combined balance and muscling to a higher degree, a logical third in 4 or 3, and a bottom who lacked structural correctness today. That would be one person. The next person would start out with the first pair. So they would go through the first pair, and you really have to be focusing on your fellow teammates because you can't say or double say things. So for example, let's say, Leah, you described in your first pair that, a horse had a deeper heart girth and had more muscling through its forearm. You still, like the second person, really wanted to say that in the second pair. You have to identify with a different way to say it. So maybe, Leah, you said the horse had a deeper heart girth. Maybe the next person was like, I really appreciated the depth through its barrel. So a different way to come up with it, and start making a list as a horse show judge of different ways to say the same thing, because in a contest, you're never going to give to the same reasons taker. So you can start to have some transitions and stuff that are a lot of fun. So a transition being, it's really, and don't forgive me for saying this, but it's really boring when you have 200 contestants coming in and they're like, in my top pair, in my middle pair, in my bottom pair, in my top pair, in my middle pair, in my bottom pair. Be creative, have fun. It's so much fun when you have a horse, not saying this always happens, but you have a horse that disqualifies and they come into the bottom pair. You can open the bottom pair with a horse, a bottom pair that easily plates itself because of a disqualification. That moves me into my bottom pair of 4/3. So that's your cool transition to bring you into that. And you can play that with popcorn games. I think mock sets of reasons really develop confidence. And so really like that game for that. We also would practice reasons in different accents. So Australian or something else. to help give you character, because that's one thing that I see that lacks in a lot of sets of reasons is they are just so focused. There's so much fear within you. You're not confident quite yet, that not only do we lack poise, but it's like you're just monotone. You just want to get the set of reasons done and get out of there. And so really working on bringing your character, talking in a mirror so you can see your facial expressions, and even video recording each other to know when you want to be super excited. You know, this horse was the best mover in the class. He combined a deep stride or round back to produce the most fluid stride. Or in the bottom pair, you have a horse that disqualified and you're really rooting for him. Ma'am, in the bottom pair, the gray easily disqualified himself. And I am so disappointed because he was really credit earning, but he forgot to walk when approaching the gate. You know, really coming in and kind of showing me your disappointment is so much fun. So I don't know if that helps at all, Leah. What's the best show you've judged? Oh, I like that one. You know, the European Paint Horse Championship was so different than anything that I've judged. It was a lot of fun. We got to meet, you know, be involved and submerged in different cultures. Same with the Danish one. But even here in the United States, there's actually a show over in Hinckley, Minnesota. They are so wonderful there. The exhibitors are always upbeat. It's probably one of the one shows, and the reason why I like it is everybody is cheering for each other. There's so much positivity that kind of flows out of those exhibitors. It's not like when they get last, like, oh, and they're all bummed and they walk out with their slumped shoulders. It's like they don't really see that there. And so that's always fun as a judge to know that, you know, hey, it just wasn't your day. Did I miss any questions?
No, I don't think so.
Such good questions.
Well, Leanne, I want to thank you. It was nice that you were able to do this.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. So much fun.